people would laugh at us and make fun of us in their staff meetings and all of that. But it was just this thought of what could be if it works.
Welcome back to the Modern Agent Podcast. My name is Logan Ricchetti with Modern Realty. This podcast is a combination of thoughts and opinions on the real estate market in Midland, Michigan with our local real estate agents from Modern Realty. Our mission is to create informed and confident buyer and seller clients, so tune in to learn more about Midland's real estate market.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Modern Agent Podcast. I'm Tyler DuRussel here today with Kevin Crampton. And today we're going to be discussing mostly just the origins of Modern Realty, if you will, how it got started and how it became what it is today. So, Kevin, thanks for coming to hang out.
Yeah.
So starting with that, you were boots on the ground, day one of the first people through the door at Modern with Logan. Talk about, I guess first let's start with, where did this egg of an idea come from?
As I recall, Logan and I knew each other through a relationship that we had at where we both started our career, another boutique real estate brokerage in Midland. And so he and I worked closely together there and became close friends. So we operated in a very similar fashion as it relates to, we use the same CRM. Back then it was called exact.com, exactcontact.com. I don't even know if it still exists. It probably does. When he decided that he wanted to switch over to Top Producer, which was the next CRM that we used, he kind of talked me into it, and we did the same thing, and we really integrated our businesses in a lot of ways when we were there. So he got to kind of the 3-year mark in his career. He was doing very well in terms of sales, and I think had aspirations of managing a brokerage. And so he formulated a business plan and decided he was going to get his broker license. And he got his broker license somewhere in the summer of 2015 and actually registered the license with the state. And Modern Realty was born July of 2015. I sent my license to Modern Realty from where I was at on August 7th of that year. So he wasn't really doing, as I recall, a lot of business in that month. I think a lot of it was logistics and getting things ready. He had one other guy, a rookie that he hired at the time, that I think was getting a lot of the backflow, a lot of the overflow of business that, what was coming in to him. Yeah, but that first little period of time was a lot of acquiring the building and all that stuff. He was in the process of getting married at that time. And so I've been here since essentially day one. And
was that kind of when he branched out, when he started made Modern, was you coming along part of the plan?
Yeah, I don't think he was making that known. I think so, though. Okay. Because
was it in your mind?
It was in my mind for sure, and he and I had never ceased communications, even in his exodus from where we were at. But I don't think that he was trying to rock the boat at the time, as far as things went with the previous broker. So I don't think he was making any kind of representations of anybody that was at that brokerage that he intended to get. But yeah, in my mind, for sure, because. He and I were very close, and I definitely aligned with his vision a lot more than where I was at, and I was very excited about the vision.
That was my next question. There's plenty of different personalities in this industry, neither of them right or wrong. There's tons of different ways to do this job, but there's definitely different ways. So did you find yourself that the way he conducted business, the way he looked at things, his kind of general outlook and philosophies aligning with that? And so when you heard rumblings of him starting Modern Realty, you thought, well, it makes sense. I'm this way too, to align myself that way?
Yeah, for sure. And back then when we started, there was essentially nobody doing a lot of media content. Certainly nobody doing high level media content in this market. Again, this was the 2014, 2015 market. There just wasn't a lot of video content, and even our video, we did a lot of video content when we were at our original company. It wasn't good. don't get me wrong. We were not doing great media, but we were doing media,
right.
and we were pounding the pavement, and we really believed in that. He was the one that kind of introduced me to believing in believing in that if you offer a premium service, you will be a premier agent. And a lot of the industry, definitely back then, less now, certainly. And I think that we are a catalyst that paved the road for a lot of the way that real estate is done in terms of the standards. But back then it was cell phone pictures for every listing. It was almost bare minimum services offered, and he had this vision, and even back then you could see even his listings before he created Modern Realty, you could tell it was his listing. As soon as you looked at it, you could tell by the photography, you could tell by the language in the description, you could just tell by the way things were done that it was one of his listings. And when part of his vision at the beginning, and it's still to this day, almost 10 years later, is this uniform product in being able to instantly know that it's one of our listings. And I believe that among many other things, that is the brand.
Yeah, so that's a good transition to the next kind of question. I had 2 or 3 things. What do you think is the biggest changes or disruptions or innovations that when Modern started, this is what Modern did different? This is what we want to do differently than we've been doing it for the last 50 years?
Yeah. 2 things. First off is a presentation of real estate listings. I just think that we were at the forefront, the bleeding edge of putting out professional listings.
Quality matters.
I mean, yeah. And anybody can put out a listing. Literally anybody can. You can go on Zillow and you could list a house probably that you don't even own if you want to. But, Logan and myself and everybody from the beginning, we're bought into this. We are professional agents. We offer a professional service and we put out a professional listing. And so that was a big thing that I do believe that listings overall across all companies have improved over this period of time. Maybe not solely because of us. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to get roasted if I say that that's the case. But when I started and when this company started, that wasn't the case. So there's that. The second thing is that a lot of people are starting to systemize their business, and Logan was extremely even before at the company that we were originally at, and he taught me, and I would not be where I am if he didn't teach me how to systemize a real estate transaction and also systemize my business. I would be all over the place, sticky notes on every surface of everything. So he was really big on that, and I see a lot of people doing that now too. And back then, nobody was doing that.
No, that makes sense. He's very every little thing he can in the office is it has a system, it has a place in a folder, and it's like you said, helpful to everybody. What were big obstacles in the first, let's call it 6 to 12 months that we're on our own? We're this tiny little boutique brokerage, as you put it. Here's these hurdles, and how do we get over them? Yeah.
The biggest was that we didn't have any brand recognition at all in the first 5 years, frankly. Even when we were doing really well in terms of sales and agent retention and growing market share and all that kind of stuff, we just didn't. We weren't this brand that has been here for 30 years. The other thing is, especially at the beginning, was this kind of lack of experience objection that you're always going to get, and even still, new agents get that all the time. But now we're able to say, look, we're aligned with the
roadmap.
The best, and the highest results in the industry, kind of the industry standard, in my opinion. Again, roast me if you want to. I'm extremely biased, but do whatever you want. So we would always have that objection, and that was one of the biggest hurdles, is when you just have no market share in trying to compete for some market share. that was tough. And even when we started Modern Realty, Logan was, I don't know, 3.5 years in. I was 18 months into my career. We really didn't have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And a lot of what you see today, and certainly what you have experienced, has been through profound amounts of failure and trial and error and just trying to figure it out. It's like being, having kids or whatever. This is my first time being a dad too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're just trying to do the best that we can. And so, I think we've gotten there over the years, but it's been a ride, dude, for sure.
Yeah, what's that? And we'll go back, but while we're on this topic, I want to talk about it. What's that like now for somebody who was there for the early struggles? A good example, I had 2 clients this summer that I helped out, both buyers. Both of them called me, hadn't been working with anyone, and they said, I've just seen so many of your signs, Modern Realty signs, not mine, that I feel like there's no one else to call.
Yeah.
Like everywhere I go, every sign seems to be a Modern Realty sign. So to go from we can't get a sign in the ground to holy crap, everyone just thinks that they're all our signs now.
Yeah.
What's that feel like?
Modern Realty is mine and many other people's profound life's work. And a lot of people were a part of where we're at. I'm just one of them. But haven't seen it from before it existed all the way until now. I remember when we were on Bayless Street and we had 150 signs in the basement. And we would go down there and look at them and say, they're making us no money sitting in this basement. We got tons of signs and they're all right here. So to think that, now they're all out in the world, with the agents representing real estate clients, and just looking back at all the people that made that possible and everything that we went through and the late nights and the fights and the scuffles and the attacks and everything that has transpired over this time, it almost makes you emotional thinking about it. And it's, it's why this is home for me, of course, and for a lot of people, is because, a lot of people have been here a long time. I've just been here longer than anybody else. And a lot of people have put in the work that has gotten you that phone call.
Yeah.
And that was always the vision. You know what I'm saying? That was always the dream. Because I remember when it was just us and the light fixtures didn't work and they flickered in the hallways and people would laugh at us and make fun of us in their staff meetings and all of that. But it was just this thought of what could be if it works. And understanding that it's not just going to work because it sounds like a great plan.
Right.
I mean, it's going to take grit. Lions fan. He doesn't like the Lions, by the way, everybody. Whoever's watching this.
I prefer back-to-back Super Bowl MVPs. But anyway.
Yeah, but and that's what it took. And I don't think that we would have got there if it wasn't for all the people that we had that were gritty like that, including mostly Logan. I mean, that dude is resilient, and he just has a unbelievable tolerance for workload and peril and just being able to stay in the fight. And I think I did too, especially in my early part of my career. My age is starting to wear me down. Maybe he would admit to that as well, but. Yeah, we made it through, man, and now you get to get that phone call, and so that feels great to even hear that.
Yeah. Well, and so me coming aboard, but more importantly, Logan's great at what he does. You're great at what you do, but you can't build this brand with 2 people, with 3 people, so you've got to attract these new agents.
Yeah.
Or you got to build a team, but like you said, you have this struggle of I have no experience as a brand, right? Collectively, so. If I'm a new agent and I'm interviewing brokerages to go work for them, what did you guys find yourself pitching or selling to get these agents on board? Because not only did you guys get agents on board, you guys got some powerhouse agents on board.
Yeah.
You got agents on board who grew to be fantastic agents. So how did that process look, or how did those uncomfortable rooms feel maybe?
Yeah, the value proposition that you had to do with agents. The first thing is that we tended to hire not young agents, but first-time agents. So we weren't necessarily, especially in the beginning, necessarily targeting experienced agents unless, one was showing extreme interest or something. We more wanted to recruit personalities that met the personality profile that we were looking for. And in the early days, we weren't able to sell as much, but now most certainly can sell the staff. We have world-class staff, which began all the way from the beginning. The Jen Lamones, the Lisa Gays, the OGs, the Michelle Wentz and Lisa Valancourt, and I could literally keep going for days. I mean, these are the people, the backbone of Modern Realty, in my opinion, and the backbone of the value proposition in recruiting real estate agents. We also believed we believed against the mantra of hire 100 and hope one doesn't suck. That's what we did not want to do. We wanted to hire the right people, recruit the right agents with the right attitudes, and pour ourselves into them. And we did. Logan did. I did. Timmer did when he came. And all of the squad leaders over the years, and we poured ourselves into these agents to get them through that first year. And then once we started to have success and start to accrue rookies of the year after year after year, 8 in a row, rookie of the year is something, again, that I'm very, very proud of. That became a major value proposition in recruiting talented people, knowing that they were going to come to a place that they would be supported, and that not only in terms of staff and operations, but supported in terms of mentorship as well. And that was a major differentiating factor, in my opinion. Let's
talk about that, because I think that is different. I sent you a text this summer, so my onboarding was a little bit different than the typical modern onboarding. And so I reached out about a year and a half in, looking for that more traditional onboarding that I had missed out on, just looking for more education from you guys. Talk about what that onboarding process looks like, whether I've been an agent for 5 years and now I'm coming to Modern, or I just got my license yesterday and I'm happy as can be and ready to go to Modern. What's the boot camp and just the onboarding process look like?
Yeah, and that's another thing that has evolved. Everything has evolved over all of the years. Again, through just trial and error and failure and success and kind of everything in between. But the typical onboarding process does depend on where you're at in your career. If you're an experienced agent, that onboarding process might more be getting you, introduced to the systems and acclimated to the climate and kind of, how to communicate with staff and what their role is and that type of thing. All the way down to a brand new rookie agent that's never done a real estate transaction in their life. And in that case, they get to work closely with an extremely experienced broker. And we have a whole onboarding process where we meet. When I was doing this, I would meet several times a week in most cases with most of the agents that I had the privilege of serving, and I would sort of take it by a case basis, and the meetings would be uniform in the sense that they'd be the same time or whatever, but maybe just the process or the topics of what we were talking about are different depending on where they're at in their life cycle of their career. But I would always start by teaching the core, fundamentals of what it is to be a modern agent, how to use a CRM, how to leverage their business, all the way up to high level training. Back in the day, Bayless days, and even a couple of years into Eastman, we would have boot camps. And this was typically done by Logan and myself and Timmer over the years. And we were doing it at nights. And we've done them everywhere from 5 nights a week for 3 weeks to 2 nights a week for 6 weeks and so on and so forth. And just teaching, back then we'd have 6, 8, 10 people coming to these boot camps every night, all the same people, and kind of getting the itinerary. A lot of them just figuring out whether or not doing real estate was something that they wanted to do or were interested in doing. So it's evolved over the years, and it's even evolved to a point where every one of the brokers kind of does it a little differently. Timmer probably just trains his agents differently than I did, and I don't think there's any right or wrong as far as that goes, as long as they're getting supported in the way that they need.
Right, they're all still being trained under the Modern umbrella.
Yep. And according to the Modern vision and mission, and that is to create confident, informed buyer and seller clients. That's the core of everything that we do. So all of the training is to help our agents to create confident, informed buyer and seller clients. And a lot of it too is how to run their business and scale their business, and even work-life balance and everything else that comes in between. Because it's a tough job, dude.
The work-life balance is an extremely difficult part of it. The joys of it is in theory, you have more flexibility in this career than in a lot of careers, but you don't, because you're a slave to the work. You have to be there to work when the work needs to be worked on.
Yeah.
So it is tough, especially once you hit that maybe 6, 10, 12 month mark where you start to really accumulate more work and the ball starts to roll quicker. And so you get excited and you're ready to roll the ball faster. And next thing you know, you haven't had a day off in 3 months and you realize you skipped 3 family birthday parties. And so that's difficult. But what do you find is, from your perspective, looking in on newer agents, is more difficult for them to learn or to grasp, and obviously everyone's different, but for the most part, is it the how to run and manage your own business, or how to do real estate in a professional, premier way?
I think teaching real estate is by far the easier part. I can teach anybody real estate, but that's not all that goes into it. They also have to know how to manage their money and being a self-employed person. And a lot of people have never done that in their life. And that's a really key skill that if you're going to make it, you're going to need to be able to do. And then, the work-life balance and how to manage when it's time to work and when it's not time to work, and how to do that is very important. And I'm not going to go into how to do that, but teaching agents, when's an appropriate time to work, when is not an appropriate time to work, how to set expectations, but also still provide premier customer service and all of that. And you can do it. You absolutely can do it. Not that it's easy, but it is possible. But a lot of people, they'll come in. We used to, if Logan ever watches this, he just loves this statement, called a Pop-Tart agent. People used to call us Pop-Tarts when we were at our other company, where we would jump up and do, phone rings and we're all over it. And what I mean by he loves it is that he does not love that. He didn't like being called that, but he's just a tenacious person. So am I, and so is almost everybody that starts this job. You got to be a Pop-Tart agent, man. You got to get to it to get some legs in this career. It is tough at the beginning, but there's ways to not have to be a Pop-Tart agent, but still give Pop-Tart agent service.
Yeah, nope, that's a good way of putting it. You mentioned numbers, and that's something that I've always. So, side note. Before we go into, we don't really know each other that well going into today. You're someone I know, but there's so many agents in the office that it's tough to get to know everyone. So I'm glad we have the time to do this today. But one thing I've always really admired from afar watching you is your, I don't want to say ability because everyone has the ability to, but your willingness to dive so deeply into numbers monthly, quarterly, bi-yearly, yearly. You know what I mean? And you're just so in tune with all of that. More so than I think most people are in our industry. What gives you that drive or motivation to want to be so tapped into everything beyond what you would need to be?
Yeah. Honestly, I would just want to be a thought leader in the space. And in order to do that, you got to know what you're talking about. I also love to do social media content, and YouTube videos and blog articles and those type of things where I dive into these nuances and how they're affecting the market and how they're going to impact my clients and all of our clients. So I do a lot of research. I spend a lot of energy researching the market and market trends because, of course, adversely, Kirsty and I are both real estate agents, so our entire household income is revolved around the real estate market. So the more you know, the more you're able to be prepared and all that stuff. But yeah, I like to know it. I like to be known as the person who knows it. if somebody has a question regarding real estate, I want them to know that if nothing else, I'm going to know what I'm talking about, and I'm going to have credibility because I'm in the books, man. I'm in the heat of it. I'm in the stats. I'm in the boring stuff. I'm trying to take those boring numbers and make them into something visually interesting to look at. You know, and I like to. I'm a classic Midwestern dad. I love weather. I don't know why I love weather. I literally will watch a forecast for the same day done by 5 different YouTubers. I just like it. And so I like to do forecast style stuff where you're studying the metrics, you're studying the conditions, you're seeing what's happening and reporting it to anybody who might want to know about it. So yeah, I got my nose in the numbers.
Yeah, you do, and I really appreciate that, because one thing that I often sell my clients on, or my prospective clients on, is when you get me, you get 50 other people as well, because we're all one big team ultimately, which is super cool. And because of that, I can sell people on the uniqueness of, first off, the staff, which you've mentioned plenty of times, that's helpful. But also I know, like, hey, if I get asked a question that's pretty weedy, and I maybe am not that entrenched in the weeds in that particular question, I know I can go ask Kevin,
right? And
Kevin's going to be a lot more brushed up than 99% of the people are on it. So with that, we just finished up with an election here last week. This is now your 3rd election you would have been through.
Yep.
Based on what you've seen with the previous 2, obviously there's no way to know what's coming, but what trends or things do you typically see happen post-election heading into that 4th quarter of this year and 1st quarter of the next year?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because we're kind of coming into it. And what I've noticed in every election cycle, which frankly have been 3 of the most kind of volatile election cycles I can remember, is uncertainty creates stagnation when it comes to real estate. That's been my experience. When people are uncertain, like during an election, even gubernatorial elections, people have a tendency to sit on their hands. I don't know if that's a good thing or it's a bad thing. It's probably a bad thing for real estate agents, but I think it's indifferent if you're a consumer. I've also noticed that like anything, people have a tendency to overreact and then retrace back to stable levels of everything. So, and that includes the federal treasury and all these people that are controlling monetary policy, and they try to get ahead of what might happen. Rates tend to pump or dump, and what I don't know is if they're going to pump or dump, but I have a feeling they're going to move. I just did a video yesterday kind of talking about what my thoughts were as far as what I think rates are going to do based on information that we have. But I just, and especially, and again, it could coincide too with the time of year, elections generally being in November. I always tell everybody that Thanksgiving through the first of the year is going to be the slowest time in terms of inventory and buyer activity. So, that might have a little something to do with it too, but I expect to rock and roll, man. I expect it first of the year, when after the transition of power and everything goes smoothly and everybody settles in, I'm extremely optimistic.
Good. Well, that goes right along with, I remember last year, the 1st quarter was wild. And I had been prepping myself for a really slow one just because that's what I hear coming into it. My first year, I couldn't rub 2 nickels together in the industry, right? So I'm getting ready for last year, and the 1st quarter was bananas. So to hear that that's kind of what you're thinking coming into this year would be really good for us too then.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing, and I tell everybody this too, is everybody thinks, if you ask, the spring market, everybody thinks April, May. The spring market starts. It's not at its peak. It starts the 2nd week of January. So I tell all my agents, be ready. And I like to spend this time, and I've taught agents over the years, Thanksgiving through Christmas to New Year's, that's calibration time. That's time to get all your prospecting list and try new things and start to develop new systems. Get ready for the new year, because I know as soon as that new year hits, you get into the 2nd week of January, what starts happening? Everybody starts getting them W-2s in the mail. Everybody starts, wrapping their arms around, what Christmas did to the finances and all that kind of stuff. Everybody starts to come back to earth after a long couple of months of sort of being disengaged with a lot of things. I mean, who's really pounding pavement if they don't absolutely have to, trying to buy a house 2 weeks before Christmas? It's just not outrageously a common thing that happens. Second week of January, all the way through April and May, is where you're going to see a big pump in the numbers in terms of actual transactions sold. So going into next year, be ready. Everybody be ready to go.
I like how patterned that is for you. After having, how many years have you been?
10. I'm in my 11th year.
There we go. Congrats on a decade, man.
Yeah.
But just to see the patterns year after year, obviously those patterns may have deeper valleys and higher peaks year to year, but to follow month to month, quarter to quarter with, school time, similar thing happening. Very cool.
And it helps you not panic. You know what I mean? Because those first couple of years, you'll panic when the faucet turns off in the fall time, and you're like, oh my gosh, going into it. You start to panic, which I believe panic is a good thing in a lot of ways. But just knowing, stay the course. I know what's going to happen, and I know what happened in the last transition of power, which was extremely volatile, and the previous one before that, which was extremely volatile. Same thing happened. Yeah. Everybody just moves on with their life, adapts to whatever it is, and just gets focused on their own deal.
The world turns on the access.
Yep.
So we go from the beginning, all the hardships, the hurdles. We hire a bunch of agents. We're now up to 51.
51, I think, right now as we sit.
Perfect. So here we are, Modern Realty now. Talk about the current state, where we came from to where we're at, and how that feels and looks.
Yeah, and again, I have a more broad perspective than everybody else, and we just had lunch before this, and we're talking, and you were describing that you wanted to go to the best team, the winningest team, and the team that had the all-stars, and the team that was the most impressive to you. And I told you that I remember when we were the worst team, when we were the smallest team, when we had no wins, and when we were just in the trenches, just scratching, clawing, fighting for everything. So, I have that perspective, and it really ties me to this company. And it makes me take this company personally. When people have negative things to say, I do take it personal because of that broad perspective. So I see that, but and then just swollen with pride. You know what I'm saying? Pride for all of the people that have been a part of it all. And all of the relationships of people that I've met along the way and have become so close with, and that I'd do anything for. Agents that I've served, and staff that have worked here, and just people, a lot of staff that I've represented, and got to know their families, and lenders and everything in between. Other people that have been a part of Modern Realty's journey. I'm just proud of them all. We're battle tested and scarred to perfection, as Dan Campbell says.
And you made it. Because going from sitting in your basement, looking at 150 signs just sitting there, to now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's 1 in every 4 1/4 homes sold in Midland County are through Modern Realty, which is huge. That's a giant chunk of the market share there. So when you say to go from the worst team being laughed at to being on the mountaintop, it really is that big of an extreme.
Yeah.
And when it comes to volume done, it's been how many years in a row was it that Modern finished at the forefront of the list?
It took us about 5 years to get to first place there, and then we toggle with one other company in town, kind of us, and that one other company is kind of the front of the market share in terms of transaction volume, in terms of transaction amounts, numbers. But yeah,
that's incredible, man. Congratulations to you on everything you've done at Modern.
Thanks for being a part of it, man. I mean, you're just as big of a piece as anybody in this day and age, And you choosing us with your personality profile, your positive attitude, everything that you bring to the table. Obviously, we're proud to have fostered an environment that you would want to commit to that. But you committing to people like you and you committing to that is the reason, You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what you look back and you ever get done doing all your yard work and all that kind of stuff, and you sweat and you start to look, and you're not the one actually growing the plant. The plants are the things that are beautiful.
Right.
The grass is what is beautiful, but you did a lot of work to help it get to that. And when you sit out there on a Saturday morning and sip your coffee and you think, pretty damn cool. That's kind of how I feel in a lot of ways. Having been the most tenured agent here and just seen the most, and there's other agents that have been here for almost as long as I have, so they can stand there with me with their cup of coffee, and we can watch it grow.
Look at these shrubs of ours in the backyard.
Yeah, look at them all beautifully groomed and just shining in their best light, and we love to see it. And yeah, that's kind of how it feels, I guess, if I was gonna make an analogy.
That's the perfect way to describe it, man. I like it. Thank you very much for sharing all that today.
Yeah, dude.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for asking me to be a part of it.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Modern Agent Podcast. Please follow at Modern Realty Midland on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you need to buy or sell a house, please reach out to Modern Realty by going to www.modernrealty.us. Modern Realty, your home, our focus.